Good morning, girly whirlies. Happy freaking Tuesday. Hopefully, you're feeling good. Today, we are going to understand your menstrual cycle, and this is super, super important and something that a lot of people don't do. And I will be honest, I never really downloaded an app or whatever. I just always kind of knew that my period was going to come around a certain point. But I think it's really important that you tune in to actually how you feel, how your body feels on certain phases of your menstrual cycle, right? So this is what we're going to go through, and we're going to start to understand we can take different approaches on certain phases within the cycle. And what we need to remember is everyone deals with that situation so differently. Everyone has different symptoms. Some have harder than others. Some don't aren't phased by it at all. But something I really try and emphasize and drive is that when you get your period, because I have done multiple preps, bodybuilding preps, and every time lost my menstrual cycle, which is not healthy. That is showing that the body is under some amount of stress that's actually not able to complete its natural process. It's also showing that, my body fat was far too low. There was nothing of me. Therefore, my body wasn't working in the way it should as a female. But something I really drive is the positivity of having a menstrual cycle, because this is it showing you that it's working, it's healthy, it's working in your favour, okay? Working it in the way it should. So it's trying to take the approach of having that positive mindset that, okay, my body's doing its bits here. So understanding your cycle. So, what is the menstrual cycle? And I had great fun doing this with my wee diagrams. So what is a menstrual cycle? Obviously, a menstrual cycle is a natural process that a woman's body goes through to potentially prepare it for pregnancy. Pregnancy. So that is what it's for. Shedding the lining of your uterus. Now, a menstrual cycle is measured from the first day of your period to the day before your next period. So often people just associate their periods with the time that they bleed, but it goes through different phases, and it starts from the day one of your January period to the next month, the day before that February period is going to start. Now, the average length of a menstrual cycle is 28 days, but everyone's cycle is different. Some people with PCOS might have a longer cycle, or they might have a shorter cycle, or somebody who is going through postpartum might have, a shorter cycle, a longer cycle. So it's important that we understand us as an individual, and everyone is person dependent on how your body responds during this time. So some can vary between 21 and 35 days. So this is why it's important to track your cycle month to month so that you can actually pick up on your cycle duration. Okay. And this actually happened to me last month. I had a tiny bit of bleeding, and then it stopped. I had a tiny bit of bleeding on the Tuesday, and then the Wednesday, nothing, and then it actually started on the Thursday. So these are wee kind of symptoms that you can start to pick up on. That might not ever happen to you, but it's just understanding how, like, the duration, how it's working, what's fucking going on. So the four phases of your cycle is, and some diagrams, like, ignore me actually. The four phases of your cycle. So you've got the menstrual cycle, the menstrual phase, or what's called the menses, and that's day 1 to day 7 on average, right? And then you've got the follicular phase, which is day 1 to 17. So these overlap. And then you've got ovulation, which is day 15 to day 17, and then your luteal phase, which is day 18 to 28. And how can each phase make you feel, right? But again, everyone is different. And I actually spoke to 2 clients last week who said to me that the week before their period, so usually for me personally, the week before my period, my energy drops. I am feeling a lot more tired, a lot more fatigued, a little less strong. However, 2 clients said to me last week that the week before their period, their strength is like, wow, they really feel that they can push hard on their training, their strength is there, right? So everyone responds so differently. So what we're saying is on that first few days of your period, so the menstrual cycle, the menstrual phase, fucking cycle phase, you know what I mean. You're going to feel like you're craving chocolate. You're going to feel a wee bit needy. We're going to feel like, oh, we've got cramps. We're a bit sore, a bit lethargic. That's how we generally feel on those first days of the bleed. Then the week after your period, so you're going into your follicular phase, that's when we fucking feel like badasses. That's when our energy rises, and that's when we feel like we can handle anything that comes our way. And this is the phase in which you should push nice and hard after in your training and your cardio, because the energy is available to you. Your body is working nice and hard here. And then you're going into your ovulation phase. So we might be feeling a wee bit overwhelmed, a wee bit needy, and we might actually be craving shittier food. So we might be craving that kind of comfort food. And then the luteal phase, so the time before your next bleed, we might be feeling angry, frustrated, we might want to have a boxing match, and we might also feel a bit lethargic, a bit exhausted, right? So phase 1 is your menstrual cycle. So this is the time of bleed. The first phase of your cycle starts on day 1 of the bleed, and it's called menstrual or menses. This is when the lining of your uterus sheds through your vagina if pregnancy has not occurred. Some people will bleed for like 3 to 5 days, but don't be alarmed if it is up to 7 days. Again, it's important to track these things. And during this phase, you might feel a little sluggish, cramping, craving chocolate, and needing a little more rest than normal. If you feel like this way, then I would potentially look at, the first few days on your bleed as taking a rest day. So just focusing on recovery, avoiding cardio, avoiding going into the gym and training, and just going for getting out a nice walk, fresh air, focusing on your food, focusing on the things you can control, rather than trying to push hard in your training. I know we all like to tick boxes, but we also are still progressing when we're focusing on actual recovery and resting and doing what's right by your body. So these times we might need a little more rest, right? And it's important that we give back to our body, especially when it's feeling like this. So it's something that, some people aren't phased by it. They're happy to train. We might take a deload, so we might drop the intensity and just go for movement. We might have a bit more rest, say 1 to 2 or 2 to 3 rest days, and then our energy is back to normal and we can push hard. Second phase is your follicular phase. The second phase overlaps with the first phase, as it begins, your follicular phase begins the day of your period and ends when you ovulate, so they overlap. Now, during this phase, the hormone estrogen rises, causing the lining of your uterus to grow and thicken. FSH, and if anyone has done blood work, FSH, so it's a follicular stimulating hormone, this is on it. This is something that we look into. It also rises, causing follicles to grow in your ovaries. And then around day 10 to 14, one of these follicles are going to produce a fully mature egg. Now, this phase, as it says, is when your energy starts to rise, you'll feel strong, and this is the time to push hard in your training and use the energy that is available to us. So I would always say the week after your period, that's when we're like, hell yeah, what was that last week? And then we've got our third phase, which is ovulation. So ovulation occurs around day 14, and this is basically when the egg that was released by your ovary, this egg is released by your ovaries due to an increase in LH. So I'm not even going to attempt to say that word, luteinizing hormone. So this phase you might feel a wee bit overwhelmed, you might feel a bit needy, a bit more hungry, and a wee bit dipping in energy, or the energy might not fully dip so that you're exhausted, but you might notice a decrease in your energy. Final phase is your luteal phase, so this can last from day 15 to day 28. And during this phase, the egg has left the building and it is on its way for a wee holiday down your fallopian tubes into your uterus. Now, this is when progesterone rises, like I was saying in the video yesterday. For Nicola's, like we can notice the symptoms and how she generally felt. Progesterone rises, so that's hormone which helps prepare your uterus for pregnancy. Now, if pregnancy doesn't occur, that's when the bleed starts, and that's when your female hormone estrogen and progesterone levels start to drop. Therefore, we can see that hunger start to spike, and the thickening of the uterus will begin to start shedding in the beginning of your next period. So it's a continuous cycle, okay? So you might feel exhausted, irritated, crabbit, hangry at this part in your cycle. Now, why is it important to track your cycle? Tracking your cycle is so important, whether you use it on the G Sheets, whether you use it on the app, whether you use it on an actual flow app. But it's so important to actually understand how you feel and what's happening with your body at certain points. But these are the key benefits. So it helps you become more aware, noticing any unique patterns, understanding when you're ovulating. If you're thinking of trying to get pregnant, obviously that's the time to go for it. It increases your overall health and wellness. Again, it's really important as a female to understand these things. And it can teach you a lot about your libido. Now, that is sexy time, aka your sex drive. So it does teach you a lot about that, and it also teaches you how to understand your moods, how to understand your coping mechanisms in certain situations, and how we can start to manage that a bit more positively. So the key things here is understanding your cycle tracking is important. Tuning into your overall health and wellness is important, not just for right now. And I always say this, you're not just focusing on to get results within 12 to 16 weeks. Focusing on if you're a young female, focus on, you might want to have kids in the next 5-10 years. So what you do right now is a reflection of that situation. So taking care of your menstrual cycle, your fertility, health, whatever it may be. And then also maybe in 20-30 years when we go into later on in life and the things that we might have, we might be faced with going into menopause, perimenopause, postmenopause. So it's going into that as well. So it's not just about right now, and it's something that I will always push on, is understanding what you do today isn't just a reflection on 12 weeks time, years down the line. So your menstrual cycle is your body's way of telling you that it's healthy and it's functioning as it should be. So trying to change that positive mindset for it. However, on the other hand, things like irregular cycles, heavy bleeds, skipping a month cycle, unpredictable cycles, they are signs that something isn't right, and I would suggest these to be checked out. And the only way to really check this out is blood work. And it is on you as a client. If I do suggest blood work, I will say to you, you should definitely get your bloods done. It is on you to do that. I can't come and take blood from you. So it is on you. If I am advising and recommending that you do this, health is wealth, right? And going private, it might cost £150 to get done, but you could actually be saving your fertility. You could be saving yourself time if you're having an issue right now with dropping body fat or gaining muscle, and it's all related to the cycle. Like, you could be saving yourself bashing your head like what I was doing last year. But if you came off contraception, it can take 6 to 9 months, sometimes a wee bit more, for your cycle to actually regulate and pattern. Or if you've recently had a baby, again, it can take some time for your body to actually regulate their hormones. Let's try to see what that said there. So this is important that we do track these things, especially as females. Obviously, females are the only people that can get periods, but these are the things as a female that I feel strongly that we should be tracking. So that's just a roundup. The next topic is going to be training and cardio around time of the month. Here you can see me absolutely fucking smashing it. But again, another topic, and it's person dependent, so it's always making sure that we, what's good for you might not be good for someone else. But that is what we're going to cover on the next one. Hopefully this actually teaches you and educates you on the importance on each phase, and actually what does your body do. It's not just a case of we're letting the blood flow, actually what is happening inside while this process goes on. Okay, so hopefully you've enjoyed my educational talk, and I will speak to you soon.